problems. Mick Dowers just came up into my country for the last week and spent some time with a good friend of Bob and I too, the famous Ben Crop, and he heads up the anti-shark finning organisation, TASFA. So I'd like to introduce Mick Dowers to you, and also Madi.
Thanks very much, Colin. Thanks to everyone for turning up today. It's an absolute pleasure to see such a great crowd of like-minded people to listen to the likes of Colin, Bob, members of the LMP, all talking about our various wildlife causes. So I thank you very much for that. I'm the founding director of a group called the Australian Anti-Shark Finning Alliance. We're not even a year old yet. We started in April of last year. And basically what we're for is shark conservation. We want to see an end to shark fin soup and the shark finning industry. We want to see an end to shark nets and baited drum lines up the Queensland coast and shark meshing in New South Wales. I'm going to talk to you quickly today about shark finning and the shark control program, and I'm going to hand over quickly then to my good friend Madi Stewart, who will also talk to you about shark conservation.
Thank you.
On the issue of shark finning, who would have thought that a bowl of soup could push the ocean's apex predators to the brink of extinction? Well, that's exactly what's happening on this planet. Every year, up to 73 million sharks are killed around the world for shark fin soup. Many of them are dragged from the sea and onto a boat where their fins and tails are sliced off before the still living shark is thrown back into the sea to slowly die. Would you eat lamb chops if the same cruelty was inflicted on a lamb? Of course you wouldn't. We wouldn't tolerate it on land, so why do we tolerate it at sea? And don't be fooled into thinking this is something that only happens in other countries. The Australian Anti-Shark Finning Alliance knows this practice regularly takes place off the Queensland coast and the rest of Australia. The Queensland government tells us that these are rogue operators and they're in the minority. Well, let me tell you that our information and our research suggests otherwise. This is a mainstream practice that happens off the Australian coast every day. Scalloped hammerheads and silver-tip whalers have been virtually eliminated from Australia's northern reefs because of shark finning. And shark populations globally have been estimated to have been dropped by 90% in the last 30 years, all because of the shark fin industry. While Queensland legislation bans the finning of sharks at sea, as I said, it still takes place due to the lure of big profits and the very small risk of detection, apprehension, prosecution and successful conviction. The Australian Anti-Shark Finning Alliance is calling on the Queensland government and the opposition to work in a bipartisan approach to get tough and lead this nation in the area of shark conservation and to follow the positive initiatives of modern governments in the likes of Hawaii, Washington, California and the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, where it's a criminal offence to possess, sell and trade in shark fin. If the landlocked city of Brantford, Ontario considers the shark fin industry such a serious risk to shark and marine conservation that it has banned the possession, sale and trade in shark fin, then surely the state of Queensland, with its vast oceanic territories, must and needs to follow suit now.
Yep.
Quickly on the shark control program. According to the shark attack file maintained by Taronga Zoo, over the last 50 years, one person has died on average each year over that period due to an interaction with a shark. More people die in Australia due to ant bites than shark interactions. Regardless, in 1962, the Queensland government at the time introduced what is now known as the Shark Control Program as a means of protecting beach users from sharks. The Shark Control Program consists of a series of nets and baited drum lines that operate on beaches from Coolangatta to Cairns. They're responsible for the deaths and injuries to thousands of marine life every year, including dugongs, sea turtles, dolphins, whales and of course sharks. Despite the protected status of the great white shark and grey nurse shark, the Queensland government persists with a program that continues to kill these and other protected animals. The Queensland government's own Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority said in a 2005 report, the main pressures on grey nurse sharks appear to be fishing activities and, get this, the shark control program. Legendary Australian marine conservationist Ben Crop, who we met up with last week, told us, "I'm against shark meshing because it kills off so many of the endangered species. Also, it has never been proven that it actually saves lives. The drum lines are actually attracting sharks in. That's the stupidity of it. The nets and drum lines do not protect beach users. Sharks are attracted to the nets and drum lines and hence the beaches where they feed off dead and dying marine life caught in them. They can and do swim over and around the nets. About 35% of the sharks caught in the shark nets are caught on the beach side. The most recent shark incident that occurred at Redhead Beach in New South Wales occurred at a netted beach. Queensland and New South Wales are the only Australian states that use these murderous programs. Finally, the Australian Anti-Shark Finning Alliance again is calling on the Queensland Government and the opposition to unite in bipartisan support to end the shark control program and work smarter in reducing the already small risk that sharks pose to humans by introducing policies similar to those recently enacted by the WA government, which includes greater community education and aerial beach patrols. Thank you very much, and I'll hand over to my good friend Madi Stewart. Thank you.
Okay, so today I want to talk. I might.
Testing.
Okay, so today I could stand here and speak to you about the same things that Mick just did, about the injustices in our waters surrounding Australia, but I actually want to tell you a different story, and it's kind of my story, but I think it's an important one to tell you today, about our power as one person up against what can seem like inconceivable odds. So I'm going to tell you that I was certified as a scuba diver at age 12, and by then I'd already lived on the Great Barrier Reef and logged more than 200 dives in their waters. So at age 14, I left school to homeschool and spend more time in the ocean. And I was fearless towards sharks and the ocean and any extremities of the ocean. But it was at the same age I was introduced to a whole new level of fear. It was at 14 I found out that the Australian government were going to legalise shark fishing inside the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. So through something called the East Coast Inshore Finfish Fishery, they take the fins and the shark's body, which is how it's legal, and this happens each year. They take 600 tons. So I was amazed that this was happening. So from then on it was all about trying to do something against it, and I was 14 and I was wondering what I could do. So if you think things like this are restricted to third world countries, it's just not true. This happens in Australia as well. It takes 600 tons a year from the marine park. So I spent my life as a child with sharks. I grew up diving with them, and they were my family, so they were my duty as well. 2 years ago I would have told you that one person could not make a difference, but since then I began a simple letter writing campaign against the government. I made fisheries notice so much that they actually attempted to contact me. I've sent more than 800 signed documents to the desk of the Sustainability Minister, and will be sending more. And you can sign one as well today. You can come see me afterwards and sign one. And I've got lots of people to send emails online, which is making them notice. And I would have told you no one can make a difference. I believe that, but now I'm saying it's not true. They're selling potentially poisoned shark meat. The second highest catch in this fishery is the endangered scalloped hammerhead. The government has assured me that everything is being done within their power to protect sharks. But that's not true as long as they're still taking about 78,000 of them each year with no idea of the effects and no science out to say that that is a sustainable amount for them to take. I never set out to fight the government or to spark rage or to be sparked, but in doing so I've learned what we are capable of. In 2006 I dived the Great Barrier Reef for the very first time. In 2007 I began to know where the sharks were, and I had my spots and some of the most significant encounters of my life with sharks on the Great Barrier Reef. And then in 2008 when I left school to return, I found out that there were no sharks left. They were gone in all the spots that I knew. And that was too short of a lifetime to see that happen. So I decided I'm not going to spend the rest of my life making up for the government's mistakes. They don't know the sharks like we do. They don't listen to science, and despite them bringing billions of dollars to the economy, they don't listen to that either. So they might not try and listen to us, but what I want to do in the rest of my life is spark a fire in the population, wanting to fight back the sharks so loud that they will have no choice but to listen. They know what they're doing is wrong. They just need to know that we know. And I take this fishery as an example of many things happening in our waters that we are well equipped to fight against and recognise, and through public awareness we can change them. Politicians are now the apex predator in our oceans, and it just cannot be that way. the oceans have. And we have a weapon no government can fight against. We've got passion for our heritage and our ability to speak up against things like this. And we look overseas for injustices occurring when they're happening in our own waters. We spend billions of dollars travelling into outer space when we've got another world just off our coastline. We're looking for things that threaten our great Australia, but that threat often comes from within our own government. So the fishing of sharks is legal within the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park. The review is happening on the 28th of this month, and I for one will be awaiting the news eagerly, and no matter what the outcome is, we will keep fighting. And that's about it. If you could go home and go on YouTube and look up man-eating shark, that'll give you more information about it. That's one of my films. My name's Madison Stewart, I'm 18 years old, I'm an underwater filmmaker, and hopefully you'll be hearing a lot more of me, and hopefully fisheries will know my name before the end of the year.
It's good to see some young people with passion. Paul McLaughlin, Isabel Dow, Madi, these are the future. I'm an old bloke, I'm 60 in May, and we need people to be coming through amongst the wildlife carers with passion, and that's the sort of people we need amongst us.